fellow soldier, rather than somebody who's appointed from a city far, far away that none of them have ever even seen. In many ways, he's a truly multinational leader. He's more Spanish than he is Carthaginian. He's got very strong connections with all the different nationalities in his army. But at the same time, he seems to never forget the fact that he is a Carthaginian.
The years following Hamilcar's death proved fruitful for the Barcids as they founded the city of New Carthage, minted coins bearing their own likenesses, and added thousands of loyal new soldiers to their army.
Spain itself is going to be useful as a base, but it's even more important as a source of military manpower and of the wealth to support that army. You can get the money that you need to pay your soldiers. You can get the grain that you'll need to feed them. And you've got a land base that, as will ultimately be shown, allows you to reach Italy and threaten the Romans in their own heartland.
The Romans were uncomfortable with this and sent embassies to find out what was going on. Eventually they signed a treaty. The treaty said the River Ebro would become the northernmost limit of Carthaginian interest in Spain, and the Romans would not be interested in going south of that.
Hannibal seized more and more Spanish territory for Carthage, but did not take his army north of the River Ebro. Yet when he returned from an expedition in the autumn of 220 BC, he found 2 Roman envoys awaiting. The Romans warned Hannibal against attacking the coastal town of Saguntum, claiming the city and its inhabitants were allies of Rome.
The Romans always liked to believe that they fought wars that were just. And a just war, the best way it could be justified was when an enemy had attacked either yourself or one of your allies. So there are some fairly shady occasions when the Romans will ally with a people they're expecting to be attacked by someone they want to fight.
Enraged by the Romans' demands, Hannibal laid siege to Saguntum.
It's quite a brutal affair. Whilst this is happening, the Romans send an embassy to him to tell him to stop. Saguntum is allied to Rome, therefore, if you attack Saguntum, you're attacking us, and we'll know what to do about it. Hannibal ignores them.
He could have laid off the Saguntines. He knew perfectly well what the consequences would be.
In this case, the leader of the Roman embassy, who's a chap called Fabius Buteo, gives the Carthaginian Senate a clear choice. He's demanded that they've either got to condemn Hannibal and arrest him, hand him over to the Romans for punishment for this act of war against the Roman state, or they've got an alternative, they'll have to go to war with Rome. So Fabius stands up in the Carthaginian Senate and he says that within the fold of my toga, I can give you either peace or war. And at this point, the Carthaginian senators bellow out, then we'll have war, and Fabius says, so be it. This is how this major conflict going to tear the Mediterranean world apart begins.
Hannibal now had what he wanted. War with Rome. When Rome declared war on Carthage in 218 BC, there was little doubt in the heart of the powerful city-state as to who would win a second Punic War. Just 2 decades earlier, the Romans had crushed Carthage. While Hannibal's countrymen had recovered much of the strength lost at the end of the First Punic War, they were still no match for the even greater power of Rome. The Romans now dominated the Western Mediterranean and, if necessary, could raise an army larger than any the world had ever seen.
The Romans have at their disposal manpower that's estimated by Polybius as well over 700,000 adult males that they can call out to fight in their army. If one of their armies gets beaten, even if it gets destroyed, the Romans can form another one. That's not true of most of the other powers of the ancient world.
The men who led the Roman army into battle were known as consuls.
Each year in Rome, there were 2 consuls elected, and these were, to some extent, the co-presidents of the Roman state during their year in office.
Now, the consuls had equal authority. Neither one could overrule the other.
Publius Cornelius Scipio and Tiberius Sempronius Longus were elected consuls for the year 218 BC. Both were confident that Carthage and its young leader Hannibal posed no real threat to Rome.
The Romans in 218 planned to behave as Romans always did. They had two armies, two consuls. One consul would go to fight Hannibal in Spain, would beat the man who'd started the war. The other consul would go to Sicily and from there launch an invasion of North Africa, go to Carthage itself, and would fight and destroy the Carthaginian Senate that had approved Hannibal's action and allowed the war to begin. So the Romans think very directly. They go straight for the jugular from the beginning. What rather surprised them was that in this case, so does Hannibal.
Hannibal did not fear the Romans. The young general's confidence was bolstered by a massive war chest and an army of 100,000 men who would gladly die for the brilliant young commander.
Well, they know each other, they trust each other. This is a tough, integrated fighting unit.
Hannibal leads in a very charismatic fashion. It looks as though he's almost like a king in this army.
One very important difference about the Carthaginian army under Hannibal and the Roman army, at least at the beginning of the Second Punic War, was the fact that Hannibal's soldiers spent all of their time training for war or all of their time fighting. They were professional soldiers. Rome's soldiers are citizen soldiers. They are amateurs, essentially. And this is going to give Hannibal's men a huge advantage.
Another key component of Hannibal's army were 37 African elephants. Carthage had borrowed the idea of elephants as weapons from Alexander the Great.
They're almost like tanks. To people who've never seen an elephant before, having one elephant or a dozen elephants or more bearing down on you is a terrifying sight. This thing is massive. It's bigger than anything you've seen before. It's coming straight at you. It's trumpeting. It's strange. It's noisy. It's huge. It's threatening. It's got these great tusks on it. It's a terrifying thing. And in some cases, armies that had never been tested by elephants before and had never seen them before would simply flee at the sheer sight of them and run away.
A superior army and a herd of elephants, however, would not be enough to defeat Rome, the greatest power in the Mediterranean. Victory would require a battle plan both bold and brilliant. Hannibal would take the fight right to the heart of Rome.
That means that he's got a problem. He's got to get his army from Spain to Italy so that he can actually fight this war with a hope of winning it rather than simply staving off defeat.
With the Carthaginian navy in ruins after the First Punic War and no naval bases in the Mediterranean, invading Italy by sea was no longer an option.
Which means he's got to think about it the other way around, which is going by land. That means he's got to launch a major expedition, carry out this mammoth march before he actually arrives in Italy. So it's a massive task, and it's something that did rather surprise the Romans.
In the spring of 218 BC, Hannibal set out for Italy with 100,000 men and 37 elephants. Ahead lie 1,000 miles of rain-swollen rivers, mountain ranges, and warring tribes. Meanwhile, the Roman consuls Publius Scipio and Sempronius Longus had departed for Spain and North Africa to mount an invasion. En route to Spain, Scipio docked at the Rhone. There, he received word from his scouts that Hannibal's army had entered southern France. Scipio waited at the mouth of the Rhone in the mistaken belief that Hannibal was coming to fight him. Instead, Hannibal slipped past the Romans and continued his march north to Italy.
And this is crucial. Had Scipio been able to block Hannibal there or somehow trap him in Spain, the history of the war might have been completely different.
Hannibal narrowly avoided the Romans en route to the French Alps, but he faced one more hurdle, transporting his elephants across the Rhone.
And what they have to do is build essentially a bridge and cover it on the side so the elephants can't see too much of the water on either side. And then also they send the female elephants across first. And apparently when the males see the females go first, then they're willing to go across. And then they kind of ship them across one by one.
Now all that lay between Hannibal and Italy were the perilous French Alps.
Hannibal's big problem is getting himself to Italy before the year ends. He ends up crossing the Alps in November.
Cold weather had already set in, and you're bringing these elephants, these huge animals, across these very difficult mountain tracks. And this seems to have a hold on the imagination, because almost everybody who's heard anything about Hannibal, the first thing they talk about is the elephants in the Alps.
The imposing sight of the mountain struck fear in the hearts of Hannibal's troops, prompting a fiery speech from the leader. Year after year, you have fought with me and won. When finally you have the Alps in sight and know that the other side of them is Italian soil, you come to a halt, exhausted. Either confess then that you have less spirit and courage than a people you have again and again defeated during these latter days, or steel your hearts to march forward, to halt only on Mars Field between the Tiber and the walls of Rome. For 2 weeks, Hannibal and his men battled snowstorms and freezing temperatures. As their ascent continued, the losses mounted. Some ancient sources say Hannibal lost as many as 50,000 men between Spain and Italy. Still, Hannibal urged his troops onward. My men, you are at this moment passing the protective walls of Italy. Nay, more, you are walking over the very walls of Rome. Henceforward, all will be easy going. No more hills to climb. After a fight or two, you will have the capital of Italy, the citadel of Rome, in the hollow of your hands. After 4 months in northern Spain and 15 days in the French Alps, the Carthaginian army finally reached the Po Valley in northern Italy.
The abiding image of Hannibal's crossing of the Alps is of Hannibal sitting on an elephant, perhaps on top of a mountain, looking down at Italy before him. And I think that was part of Hannibal's idea. When the Gallic tribes of northern Italy saw these elephants among them, they knew that Hannibal must be a man of incredible capacity.
So Hannibal's got his toughest troops, his most important forces to Italy with him. A commander who was less talented, less determined, less charismatic probably wouldn't have got his army there at all, certainly in a state where it can take on the Romans and fight them.
Word of Hannibal's arrival would soon reach the consul Scipio. War was at Rome's doorstep. When the Roman consuls Publius Cornelius Scipio and Tiberius Sempronius Longus departed Rome in 218 BC, they were seeking more than victory on the distant battlefields of Spain and North Africa. They were seeking personal glory.
You want to be able to go back, put up all the mementos of your triumph on your house. Best of all, you really want to win the right to celebrate a triumph, where you'll have this great formal procession through the city of Rome. You'll be dressed up like the statues of Jupiter, Optimus, Maximus, Rome's oldest gods. They paint your face terracotta red so you look like the terracotta statues of the god. And you parade right through the center of Rome with the captives you've taken, the spoils of your battle. Everybody tells you how wonderful you are. In a sense, you're almost Jupiter for that day, and you're treated as such. Consuls want to win success. So it does mean that Roman high commanders are often rather desperate to make sure that the campaign comes to a conclusion quickly. And it does mean that they're very bold, very reckless.
Ironically, when the Romans went to war against Carthage in 218 BC, their first mistake was in granting Hannibal too much time to launch his battle plan.
They thought they had plenty of time. They thought Hannibal was not